If you're prompting ChatGPT and getting garbage responses, then reprompting 5 more times before you get something meaningful, then you are doing it wrong. The problem in this case isn't ChatGPT. The problem is you don't have a system. I've analyzed thousands of top performing prompts across marketing and development, and I found something very interesting. The best prompts aren't random. They always follow a proven framework. I'm Stanley. I work as an SEO growth manager, scaling SaaS brands to millions of users, and I've been using ChatGPT as part of my workflow every single day for the past 3 years. And in this video, I will be breaking down 5 proven ChatGPT prompt frameworks that will change how you prompt ChatGPT forever. Now, each one of these workflow is designed for a specific use case, like content creation, complex workflow, precision control, deep research, and strategic decision. And by the end of this video, you will be able to know what framework to use and when. Now, without further ado, let's get started. The first ChatGPT prompt framework is called CARE. Yes, C-A-R-E. Now, the C stands for context, the A for action, the R for results, while the E stands for examples. Now, the context is the situation or the background. The action is what you want created. The result is your expected outcome and format, while the examples is basically 2 to 3 samples of what you want. Now, we use this CARE framework when you're writing LinkedIn posts, emails, tweets, blog post intro, literally anything where style and voice matters more than data or analysis. Now, this is how we'll do it for better clarity. I'll give you an example, then show you the actual prompt of the CARE framework in action, so you have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. Cool? Alright, so for example, let's take a SaaS founder who's been building his language translation app in public. Now, this app is not funded, this is more like a bootstrap project, and it's been 18 months of hard work and intense build process. He just finally crossed 100,000 MRR, a very huge milestone, and he wants to make a LinkedIn post announcing this win. Now, let's create this LinkedIn post on ChatGPT using the CARE framework. This is it, starting with context. I'm a SaaS founder who just hit 100k MRR after 18 months of building in public. I bootstrapped the entire way and learned most things through trial and error. Over to the action. Write me a LinkedIn post announcing this milestone. For the results, we want this to be 150 words maximum, hook first structure, vulnerable and authentic tone, end with a question to drive engagement. Now, for the example, we'll paste 3 solid examples here. Now, this can be examples from your previous post or examples from other top creators you kind of like admire their work. You paste the example here and you're good to go. Now, you can see the context, action, results, and examples all put into play in the CARE framework. Now, we'll copy this prompt and we head over to ChatGPT and paste the prompt. And boom, you're good to go. A well-crafted LinkedIn post that actually makes more sense, right? The examples component is actually what makes this framework so powerful. When you give ChatGPT a solid example, it reverse engineers the voice, the tune, the style, the hooks, and even go as far as determining the depth of vulnerability. But without these examples, it ends up just giving you generic outputs. With the examples, you end up getting very solid outputs that sounds way more like a human, and that's the power of the CARE framework. The second framework is the RISE framework. Now, this is specifically designed for multi-step workflows where you want ChatGPT to follow a logical sequence. The arrow is the row, which is who you want ChatGPT to act as. The I is the input, which is the data or context you would be providing. The S is the step, which is the exact sequence to follow. And finally, the E is the expectation, which is what the final output should look like. You can use the RISE framework where you're building campaigns, creating processes, designing customers' journey. In fact, anything with multi-stage that needs to flow logically. Let's take just one example of the RISE framework in action. So once again, we'll assume you're a SaaS founder and your SaaS tool has an email list with 10,000 subscribers. But then again, you noticed about 3,000 of these 10,000 subscribers haven't opened your email in the past 90 days, and now you want to launch an email campaign to win them back in the form of what we call email sequences, and you need ChatGPT to create this email sequence for you. So let's quickly see the RISE framework in action. But then again, remember we have to define the role, and in this case, ChatGPT is the one acting as the email marketing strategist. Don't mix it up. Now let's dive right in. So these are prompts. Start with the role as mentioned. You're an email marketing strategist who specializes in SaaS re-engagement campaign. And for input, which is the I for RISE, I run a B2B SaaS tool with 10,000 email subscribers. About 3,000 haven't opened an email in 90 plus days. I want to win them back before removing them from the list. Now this is where we define our steps, and for this example we have 4 steps. Step 1, identify why they likely went inactive. Too many emails, products didn't fit, found competitor. Step 2, craft the first email acknowledging their absence and acknowledging what went wrong. Make it personal, not salesy. Very important. Step 3, second email should offer value, a resource tip or insight they can use even if they don't re-engage. And finally, step 4, final email should be the last chance with a clear choice. Stay on go with a one-click preference center link, right? I will move over to the E of the RISE, which is the expectation. So now I want ChatGPT to create a 3 email re-engagement sequence. Each email needs a subject line, body copy, which is about 120 to 150 words, and finally a clear CTA. So this is it, our RISE framework prompt. And we'll copy this prompt and take it over to ChatGPT and we paste it. So ChatGPT will craft our 3 emails. So you can see email 1, email 2, and finally the last email, which is what we'll use for the email sequences. So you can easily copy this, touch this a bit, and you're good to go. For the RISE framework, the step component is the key component here. It sort of forces ChatGPT to think through the progression logically rather than just spitting out random emails. You end up getting a coherent campaign that builds upon the last. Without this step, you might just get disconnected messages that just doesn't add up together, right? So the RISE framework is very much perfect for any multi-step process that needs to follow a logical progression. The third framework is the TRACE framework. This is specifically designed for cases where you need tight control and precision over every element of the output. The T in TRACE stands for task. This is where you define the specific job. The arrow is the role, which is who ChatGPT should act as. The A is for action, what specifically needs to be done. The C is the context, which is the background details. And the E is the expectation, which is the detailed output specification with hard constraints. Emphasis on the hard constraints here. You can use the TRACE framework to craft your ChatGPT prompt whenever you're writing landing page, ad copies, headlines, product description, or just anything where word count, tone, or a specific element really matters. Alright, let's quickly create a SaaS landing page for a developer's tool using the same framework. Here's our prompt. The TRACE framework starts with the tags. Write the hero section for a SaaS landing page. Over to the role. You're a conversion-focused copywriter who specializes in landing page for technical audience. And then the action creates the headline, subheadline, and CTA button text for the hero section. Then over to the context. I'm building a landing page for a developer tool that automates API documentation. The audience is backend engineer who hates writing docs. The tool saves them 10 plus hours per week. And finally, the expectation. Deliver exactly one headline, max 10 words, one sub headline, maximum 20 words, one CTA button text, maximum 3 words. Now this is something you should always note as well. For the TRACE framework, it always comes with constraints. Now the constraint here says headline must emphasize speed, not features. Avoid technical jargons. No streamline. Optimize leverage. So these are not just technical jargons alone. They are also common AI words. Subheadline must acknowledge the pain points directly. CTA must not be get started or sign up. Be more specific. And finally, the tone should be confident, not arrogant, casual, but not unprofessional. So we'll copy our prompt and we head over to ChatGPT and then we'll paste it. And boom, we have our results. Very simple and straightforward. For the TRACE framework, the detailed expectation with hard constraints is what makes it very powerful, because you're not giving ChatGPT that creative freedom to overdo. Instead, you're setting limited boundaries for it to work within. And by doing so, you stop it from creating generic content you've probably seen 1,000 times. The fourth framework is the GROWC framework. Now, this is designed for deep research and analysis when you need to avoid surface level answers. The G in GRWC stands for goal, which is what you're trying to discover or understand. The arrow is return format, which is how you want the information structured. The W is warning, and that caters for what not to include. The C is context dump, and it covers all relevant background data. You can use the GRWC framework when you're doing competitors research, market analysis, and customers insights. Notice the one I'm mentioning things that requires depth and specificity. Now, using the GRWC framework, let's identify 3 solid pain points that SaaS founders do face when trying to create consistent content for their brand. We'll start with the goal, which I just mentioned, identifying the top 3 actual pain points that B2B SaaS founders face when creating consistent content for their brand, right? And then we move over to the return format. For the return format, we have 3 pain points in bullet format. For each one includes the pain point 1 sentence, why it is not discussed often, another 1 sentence, then evidence or examples from real founders. It can either be quotes, forum posts, or specific data. And then the W in GRWC for warning. And our warning here is do not include generic answers like lack of time, don't have a strategy, or inconsistent posting. Do not speculate. Base findings on real data from forums, Reddit, Twitter, or founders interviews. So these are like original sources of information. Do not give surface level advice. I want the uncomfortable truth. Then, as usual, avoid corporate buzzwords. And you move over to the context dump. And this is me basically saying, I'm researching this because I see the same recycled content marketing advice everywhere. I've analyzed 50 plus SaaS founders discussion on Reddit, Indie Hackers, and Twitter, and most admit the real problem isn't time. It's something deeper than what they say publicly. And what is that? This is what we're about to find out in the next 3 seconds. Go to ChatGPT and of course paste the prompt. Now, this is our 3 non-generic pain points that B2B SaaS founders admit when it comes to creating consistent content, and you can see it well outlined. For the GRWC prompt framework, the warning component is the game changer here. It forces ChatGPT to dig deeper and avoid the obvious lazy responses. The final ChatGPT prompt framework is the ROSES framework. And ROSES framework is tailored for strategic decisions where you need to see the reasoning behind the recommendation, not just the recommendation itself. The R in ROSES stands for role, which is who ChatGPT should be. The O, objective, what decision or strategy you need. The S is steps, the analysis process to follow. The E is expected solution, what format the recommendation should take. And the S is the scenario, the specific situation and constraint. You can use the ROSES framework when you need to make pricing decisions, business strategy, hiring plans, market positioning, or anything where you need to evaluate the logic and not just blindly trust the output. So let's brainstorm the pricing structure of an e-commerce software using the ROSES framework. So we start with the rule. You're a SaaS pricing strategist who has helped 50 plus early stage companies design their pricing model. And over to the objective. Now we want ChatGPT to recommend a 3-tier pricing structure that maximizes revenue while encouraging upgrade. And we have to outline the steps, and you can see my steps here. And the first step is to analyze my current pricing and user behavior, research competitors' pricing in my category, identify psychological pricing triggers that work for my audience, design 3 tiers with clear differentiation, explain the strategic reasoning behind each decision, and of course this is the expected solution, which is basically the outcome. So I need a table with tier name, monthly price, key features included in each tier, target customer segment for each tier, and for each tier I needed to explain why this pricing point works psychologically, how it compares to competitors, what behavior you're trying to encourage, and potential risks I should watch for. And we have the scenario, which is the final S in ROSES. So this is you just painting a scenario for ChatGPT. I run an early stage SaaS tool for remote teams, currently at 500 users, average of $50 per month. Retention is at 5%. Most users are small team, 5 to 15 people max. My competitor charge between $30 to $100 per month, and I'm considering restructuring my pricing to drive more upgrades. So this gives ChatGPT the current scenario of where you are right now, and it can take it up from here. So copy this prompt as usual and take it to ChatGPT. I paste the prompt in ChatGPT. Now you can see the 3-tier pricing structure with data to back it up. Each step giving you concrete information on what you need, and most importantly, the table output format I requested, and you can read through to see the logic behind each statement, and you're good to go. The combination of the steps and the expected solution sort of forces ChatGPT to show its work. This way, you're not just getting pricing recommendation, but the strategic logic behind them, and this lets you evaluate whether the advice makes sense for your own situation or not. Alright, there you have it, our 5 ChatGPT prompt framework. Here for content creation where voice matters, RISE for multi-step workflow that needs sequence, TRACE for precision work where every word counts, GRWC for research that needs actual depth, and finally ROSES for strategic decision where you need to see the logic. These 5 frameworks are what separates people who get quality results on first try and those who have to reprompt 10 different times. I've compiled and published all 5 frameworks, their examples and prompts on my Substack. The link is in the description below. You can go there and copy whatever you need. And also, if you want to see more ChatGPT strategies that actually work, I have a separate video breaking down 15 workflow tricks that most people don't even talk about, and you can click right here in the video to go over there or check the description below. I would also attach the link. Alright, that's all for now, and I'll see you in the next video.